Introducing active learning activities into your synchronous or live teaching is a great way to engage learners and build deeper, more meaningful learning experiences. And while there's lots of active learning activities and strategies out there to choose from, rather than just throwing them into your session, how can you ensure that these approaches are well received and effective? In this video, we'll look at top 10 tips to consider when introducing active learning activities. Tip 1 is to create a safe learning environment. For learners to get the most out of active learning, it's important for them to view you and your learning environment as a safe, welcoming space where they can ask questions, share their confusion, make mistakes, and try out new approaches to learning without fear of judgment or ridicule. We can help to foster this kind of environment by having opportunities for you and your learners to get to know each other, to make connections and build communities of support. Also, it's important to share why we're using active learning and its effective role in learner-centered education. Tip 2 is to make the activity relevant. So this second tip is something I keep going back to, and it's that explicit learning design and well-developed session learning outcomes are key. By having clear, measurable, achievable outcomes, will allow you to link your active learning activity to a session learning outcome, either fully or partially. This will mean that your activity has a real purpose in the session, and it's not just seen as busy work by your learners. Also, by making this explicit link, your learners' engagement or completion of the activity can help inform you and them of their current level and understanding around a topic or piece of information, therefore acting as a formative assessment opportunity. Tip 3 is to select the right exercise. Your session learning outcome will help inform this, so you've identified what you want your learners to be able to do and at what level, so your active learning activity gives them a chance to practice doing it. However, there are still several pieces to consider when making your choice. Consider your learner population. Are they K-12, college students, professional learners? Will they work well in groups? Will you need to assign roles? Will you need to give explicit report back instructions? Also consider your learners' group persona. Are they chatty? Do they like informal group work? If they're quieter, maybe they prefer individual activities or need more time to think and compose responses before discussions. And review your options. There are so many activities to choose from. Don't be afraid to explore different options and experiment and adjust the activity to suit your own context. And remember to challenge your learners. Active learning activities are supposed to address higher order thinking and therefore shouldn't be passive or too easy. Select activities that will challenge your learners and you can provide support if needed. Tip 4 is to identify any preparation needed for the activity. How will you need to prepare? Do your learners need to come prepared for the activity? Do you need to create some digital content to support them? Do you need to provide clear instructions and guidance well in advance to allow your learners to prepare? How will learners know how they've done in the activity? Do you need to set up some mechanism for feedback? Tip 5 is to consider the link to other session elements. So how does the activity fit into the session flow? And how will you transition before and after the activity? Also, how will the activity fit with the assessment in the course? Learners tend to value active learning activities that prepare them to do well in the course, but can resist activities that feel like busy work or that are too disconnected from the assessments. Tip 6 is to plan how you will introduce the activity. This tip is especially important when first introducing active learning activities. Justifying or explicitly communicating why you are using this approach and activity helps learners to understand your actions and helps them value your pedagogical expertise. Tip 7 is to plan the logistics. Try and determine how much time you will spend on the various parts of the activity and how to ensure timely transition. So music or a timer can help progress things. During the exercise, monitor learners' progress, ask questions if needed, and address any confusion that may derail the activity. Provide feedback that summarizes key takeaways and helps students know how they've done. Consider providing a brief reflection period for students to process their learning. Tip 8 is to consider how will you judge success. Will you assess students' participation, enjoyment, information retention? Will the activity be formal or informal assessment? Do you want to include a post-activity follow-up, such as a minute paper or a discussion post or a quiz? There's no single right way to do this, but it's useful to consider what metrics you might want to use to judge success. Tip number 9 is to just do it. All of these considerations might put you off starting, but the best advice is to start small and experiment. Introduce something like a think, pair, share activity and see how it goes. And finally, tip 10 is to iterate and expand. As I said, starting small is key. As with all teaching enhancements, it's important to iterate and build over time. So you start with something manageable, not too much of a drastic redesign, reflect on that, and then enhance it or add further to your session next time. And it's this slow, bite-sized approach to improvement that will be more manageable and sustainable and eventually have a big impact. Okay, so that's my top 10 tips to consider when introducing active learning activities. If you found this video useful, please hit like and consider subscribing to keep up to date with new content.